Are the sounds you're using in your beats stopping you from getting placements with artists or online beat sales? Recently, hundreds of producers submitted beats for me to fix on this channel, and most of them were making the same mistakes, causing the beats to sound weak and ruining the chances with artists. So today, I'm gonna roast 2 producers' beats and show you how to fix the exact problems you're probably making too, using tricks I've used to land placements with major artists such as Gigs, Noisy, and K-Trap. If you want me to review your beats, just use the link below. Now let's get straight into it. This is one of the first projects I opened, and it's an early 2000s beat from a producer called Lewis, so let's see. It's gonna be interesting because he's used my sounds too. So I think he's used the loop. The loop sounded fire. I'm liking the beat, but instantly, I think it needs a bit of work. So this isn't a bad beat, but there's a few things that instantly stand out to me. One of them being the bass. I think some of the notes might need changing, and maybe the sound. I think the drums could hit harder, and I feel like it could be cleaned up a bit. I also want to replace some of the sounds. And I talk a lot about people not using good quality sounds, and it's not necessarily the case with this. It's just there might be better options for this style of beat, and I'll break it down for you. Just see where it drops. That's one way to trigger some OCD, man. So the beat's actually dropping here. Now, me personally, I hate that because I want to quickly look at 9 and know that this is the next 8 bar. Some people don't mind it, and it's not like he's offbeat or anything, because those patterns are going to throw me off. So it's actually starting like this, but it's affecting it at the end as well, because if you look here, everything stops. So the next section is actually starting here. So it's easier for me to work with. I'm going to move everything over. I'm going to cut this off, bring all of these drums over. Because he's got it like that, it's also throwing some of the stems off. So I'm just going to bring this over. But even looking at some of the other stems, they're a little bit off. And I'm going to show you why that happens. Let's make a whole new arrangement. When you're working with loops, you've got to look out for the beginning, because when you export things from FL, you get left with this space. This is all dead space here, so most producers forget to cut that. And then when they start arranging the stems, everything's just shifted a little bit off. Now if we look, everything's on. So now let me split the stems. Alright, so I've just spent some time structuring the stems. When there's that many layers, it can get a little bit complicated, but you gotta take the time to do it. Let's go back to his arrangement, and I'm gonna copy the drums that he has. So it should be here. To make it easier to change, we can highlight everything with Control and left click, then hit Control and G to group them. I'm also gonna send that loop to a mixer because it wasn't actually routed before. So let's have a listen. So to me, I think it's sounding a bit muddy in the low end. I'm going to add an EQ to the loop and just roll off some of the lows. And sometimes, depending on the instruments that are used, I might just duck some of the low mids, because this area here can get really muddy. Now if you listen to the drums by themselves, to me they're just sounding a bit weak. And it's not necessarily the fact that he's using the wrong sounds. Because this, for example, is really nice snare, nice open hat, nice clap, but we're going to change a couple of them. On the master, he's got a soft clipper, which is fine. But if you look, everything's quite low. The snare, for example, it's hitting at -8, which is really low. So I'm just going to boost that right up. Turn the velocity up too. I'm also going to layer it. So I'm going to go to the G'd up drum kit. This snare is actually from this kit. And because it's an R&B early 2000s beat, I might just change up those sounds. So I really like the sound of this clap. And it works well with that snare. They just need to be leveled. So this clap can be kind of high. And that snare just underneath it is almost like a trap pattern, because he's using these rolls. I feel like this type of beat just doesn't really need a pattern like that. And because it's R&B early 2000s, I'm going to swap that out for a shaker instead. Let's just go for the essential. And yeah, I don't think this pattern's really going to work, so I'm going to make a new one. And if I'm going for more organic sounds, I like to keep them a little bit off the grid and just have a natural swing to them. So a good way to do that is by actually recording them in instead of clicking them. So I'll just fine tune that a little bit. You can see everything's not perfectly on grid. It's not the same velocity. I'm going to actually change that snare to this one. I'm going to increase it out. Just so we've got a nice blend. Right, now the kick and the 808. I feel like they're just not really blending well together. And this is a really nice kick. It's actually my go-to. But if you look where it's hitting, it just needs to be boosted. I think I'm going to change the pattern a bit too. I think we could bring this back and maybe have a little ghost kick here. Just slightly off grid. And then same again here. Maybe something like this. Yeah, I think that pattern works better. And then for the 808, let's change the sound. We're going to try this one. It's one of my favorites. It's just a nice, simple 808 sound. So yeah, a couple of the notes are a bit off. Also with that sound, I'm going to have full control over the release. I want it to stop when the note ends. Still sounding that little bit muddy, so I'm actually going to sidechain the kick to the 808. I'm going to use kickstart for this, set it to audio, activate sidechain, select the kick, we'll activate band mode, and then just everything under around 200 maybe. If you wanted to as well, you could add some delay to that shaker. Set the time to 2, bring the input down and the feedback right down. You don't want to overdo it with delay. We could use ping pong mode, just increase the panning. Could even add another snare just to create more bounce. So I'm thinking maybe here. Okay, we've also got this open hat, and again, I don't mind the sound. Might use it here because there's a little bit more space. Also making sure cut itself is on. I'm going to add another one here with 0 velocity, just so it cuts before the kick. Right, next up, he's added this perk loop, so we can keep that in. Let's just send it to a mixer. I don't mind that as it is. Usually I add a fill at the end of like every 8 bar or 16 bar, and there's already one in the loop, so I don't mind that one. But if you're looking for fills, there's a whole section in this G-Dub drum kit. By the way, if you want to try any of these sounds, my brand new re-up bundle is out now, and there's over 1,000 drums, loops, one-shots, phrases, accents, midis, presets, and more, all inspired by the early 2000s. I'm currently running a launch offer too, where you can get the whole bundle at a crazy discount, along with a bonus early 2000s production course, a gift card, and more. So if you make any early 2000s hip-hop or R&B beats, just click the link in the description. You know what, I think I just want a little bit more bounce in this beat, so I'm going to go to my re-up bundle, the G-Dub drum kit, and if you go to the loop section, there's this whole section with loads of full drum loops, but then there's versions without the kick and without the kick and the snare. So these ones are really good for adding some bounce if you're using your own kick and snare. And then we can just cut this one when this loop comes in. And with the perk loops, you want them a little bit lower than the main drums. Yeah, about there is perfect. See, they just add a bit of organic groove to the beat. I like that it's added these scratches, which are from the same kit. So that might be enough drums. I can go ahead and split these, and then we could just figure out the arrangement. Let's copy this over. Then right at the end where that fill comes in, I think I can just cut some of the drums. Okay, I think we saved that part and just come straight into the hook where most things are playing. Might just save a couple things. So we could leave the vocals in though, just because it's the hook. I don't want too much going on, so I might save these. And then let's bring the drums back in. Yeah, that's kind of hard. This will be the verse, so I want to keep this pretty open for an artist. But after every 4 or 8 bar, we can start introducing something new. Copy the drums over again. We can bring these in again, but bring them out here. And then let's bring this in here. And you know what? We could even try the bass that was in the loop. All right, now at this point, we can just bring the hook back in. Okay, so let's hear the original again. this is the fixed one.
Dance with me.
So the drums are hitting harder, it's a bit cleaner. More bounce too. And just a bit more structure. And if you're liking all of these sounds, they're all from our Real bundle, which is available now. The link's in the description. Alright, now moving on. The second beat is from a producer called Reza, and he sent me a Persian drill beat, so let's have a listen.
Purchase your tracks today.
Not the purchase your tracks today tag. Okay. This isn't bad. I can hear some things instantly. I'm gonna quickly flick through.
Purchase your tracks today.
And then it looks like we've got another section here. Oh, so he's done a Jersey bounce here. Instantly listening to this beat, I can spot a few things. You've probably guessed it. The first thing is sound selection. I'm going to be breaking it down for you, but I just think some of these sounds are a little bit outdated. Some of them could be replaced with something a bit more interesting, and some of them just don't really fit the genre, especially some of the effects that is used. Let's just start with the melody though. It looks like you might have sampled something. Okay, so we've got the flute, pads, and then the strings, so just 3 layers here. And it's not bad, some of these beats can be simple, but to me, I just want to make this sound a little bit more dramatic. I also think at one point we could flip this flute, because to me it's not sounding dark enough. I actually really like it reversed, just this one part. I'm going to add a bit more atmosphere to this. I'm just going to add a bit of reverb. I'm also hearing this really airy frequency in the flute, and it's quite common for these samples. Let's try to get it out with a low pass filter, but I'm gonna go a little bit more precise. I think it's somewhere around this area. Let's try this. So it helps. That's without. You probably need headphones on to hear it. I think it needs another layer though. This sounds kind of hard. Let's send it to the same bus he's got, because he's got all instruments going to one bus and then kickstart on the bus, which is giving it that pulsing effect. Let's add one more. I like presets like this that just have a weird texture to them. I'm just going to take that low end out though. And maybe some of the highs. So that's without. That's with. Just adds that bit of texture. Alright, cool. And I also think with where he's got it, with the 8-weight hitting on G, it just doesn't have the maximum impact it could have. Especially for drill, I usually have the 8-weight somewhere between A sharp up to F sharp, depending on the sound. And I'm just gonna bring it down 3 semitones. Alright, that's the melody, just simple things for now. We could pitch this down to match it. But as you can imagine, I want to change quite a few of these sounds. And they're not necessarily bad sounds, I just feel like they don't really fit this style of beat. Let's start with the counter snare. I don't mind this pattern. For this style of beat, you don't need crazy counter snare patterns, but I feel like we can get something a bit more interesting. Next up with the snare. This snare to me sounds a bit like the chop snare, which was really popular in Chicago drill, even UK drill in the early days, but now it's not used as much. So I feel like this snare sounds a little bit outdated. And for these beats, I like to use something kind of heavy and interesting sounding. Even something like this wall snare, something like that too, or even something like this. Yeah, I like this wall snare. That sounds kind of hard. Okay, let's check the 808. For this style of beat, I think it needs something with less of a transient and something a bit longer. We'll try something like the backward one. Even that. And the easiest thing to do is just test a few. But if you look at his 808 mix, he's got it 100% merged, which means that everything's going to be playing straight down the middle, which is fine for some 808s. But for drill, a lot of the 808s are sound designed with some width in mind. For example, when I make them, I usually keep the low end in mono, but then I might spread the highs and affect the highs in certain ways to give it that width. And that's what really creates an interesting sound compared to... There's just such a big difference there. Could try the testers one as well. This is in Planet Drill. I'm going to stick with the backward one though. This is one of my favorites. For the pattern, I feel like we could break this up a bit. Okay, so I usually like to have 8 bars of a simple pattern, and then I'll switch things up a little bit after that. Alright, let's hear the kick that he's got. Not bad, but we could boost it. Or I think for this beat, there's one of my go-tos called drill kick. On the master, he's just got soft clipper, which is perfect for this style of beat. I'm also going to sidechain the kick to the 808. This isn't something I always do, but I feel like I'm just losing some of the weight of the kick. I'm going to adjust that, even the mix. I like that, but I think the kick pattern is a bit too busy, so I'm going to simplify this. See, like these patterns here, sometimes it can just sound a little bit too busy. If you like that, maybe bring the velocity down and gradually coming up like this. Might be too much for this beat though. Could leave one. Let's copy this pattern and we're just going to change it a bit to match the new 808. Okay, so next up, he's got this crash. I'm just not feeling it. Atmosphere, I'd use something like an effect fill. Could use something like this. Yeah, and then at this point we could just fade it in. And then for example here, I don't know why there's chimes there. Chimes just doesn't fit this vibe at all in my opinion. I'm getting rid of that purchase your track today as well. Yeah, see, that's just not the one. I actually like the fill he's used there though. Of course it's a J Cactus fill. Let's just get rid of the crashes and all of those chimes. You can see in some parts it's got some cuts in the drums. And I do really like having cuts in the drums just to keep the beat interesting. Could even cut the melody there too. Might even bring that fill back here too and just have it at the end of every 16 bar. So with fills, they're exciting to use, they sound sick, but the trick is to just not overdo them. Because if you've got a fill playing like every 4 bars, it can just sound a bit too intense and can really put artists off. I'm going to bring this back for the intro. He's got a filter on here. I'm not really feeling it the way it is right now. I might change it. He's also got the tape stop on. It's okay, but I'm going to leave it off for now. We're going to save the strings and texture for this section because this will be the hook. So we want a bit more energy there. I'm going to have no counter snare here. Kickstart is the thing that's giving it that pulsing effect. This is on the instrument bus. I used it for side chaining, but it's mainly used to give it that pulsing effect. And we don't want it playing all the way through because it can just add a nice bit of variation. So if we leave it off here, we could turn it on after 8 bars. And I think we need a sub bass in the second half. And I'm sure we had one. So that sub bass is actually nice, and that's why it's nice because he's already using one of my sounds. Let's turn it down a bit, and I'm just gonna chop the counter snare a bit. I'm just gonna change the pattern a bit. I'm gonna get one more fill, but just the start of it. Let's cut these. Because we had the tape stop on, we can still use that, but I'm just going to add it to the instrument bus so it doesn't affect the drums as well. And let's do it here. Alright, so what else we got? I think something needs to switch up after the hook. And to be honest, I just don't think it needs this jersey part, so I might not use that. Sometimes switch ups are sick, they're real fun to do, but if you're trying to get placements, it can really throw an artist off, because if they're right into a certain drum bounce, as soon as it gets to that next section where everything changes, it can be off-putting for a lot of artists. What I might do though is make this one unique and then reverse it, because I really liked the start of it. You could do something like this. And I'm just gonna arrange this whole thing again. Let's copy all of these drums. Can make a cut here. And I don't mind the double kick that it had, so we could put that back in. In this reverse section, I just need to change the 808s a little bit. Right, now at this point, we could probably just bring this bridge back in. One last thing I'm going to try is add in sound shifter again. So that could work. Let's use that just in this bridge. Bringing things up and down an octave is just an easy way to add variation to your beat, especially when the melody is so simple, because things can get really repetitive quick. Because we're pitching it down, I've just added another EQ to take out some lows, but we can automate this as well. So we're only going to have the EQ come on when sound shifter comes on. And he added a filter before, so I might respect the style and still add one, but I really like to use this triangle low pass, bring the resonance down and the cutoff up a bit. Let's automate this as well. So this whole section will be the verse, and then we can bring the hook back in. We'll have 2 verses, a 3rd hook, and then it can just play out for like 8 bars. All right, so this is what it sounded like before. And here's what it sounds like after. And this one turned out crazy, you know. Drums are hitting, sounding a lot darker. So this one was just sound selection, really. Now we've got the reverse section. So that was just a subtle way to completely switch it up. Section. So I hope you are feeling this. If you want me to review your beats, the link's below. Or if you want to check out the sounds I've been using today, the link's also in the description.